Hello everyone, it's Gigabeef here, and today we're going to finish the Punisher series and discuss parts 5 and 6 together. Because they're not map specific, they can be completed in similar ways, so stick around and let's get going. So now that we've finished Punisher 4, that basically takes us to the end of Shoreline. We don't have to play it again, unless we want to, that is, because on Punisher 5 and 6, we can play on any map we like, which means that it's much more freestyle and less specific, which makes this guide a bit more conceptual than some of the other ones we've done for the other Punishers, because those ones have much more strict requirements. So let's have a look firstly as to what we actually need to do. So with Punisher Part 5, we need to get 10 PMC kills, we need to wear a Packer and a 6B47 helmet, otherwise known as the Ratnik is what I usually call it, and some fine invade weapons, which we'll look at in a bit. Punisher Part 6, we need to get 15 PMC kills using the SVD, and we also need some dog tags, which is 7 for each faction. So as I mentioned, the PMC kills, we can go anywhere, so this quest is quite open compared to some of the other ones, and I think the first thing that you'll notice is that if you're completing Punisher Part 5, the Packer really sucks. Being level 2, it's not very good at all, and the SVD is a long-range weapon for Punisher Part 6. So both of these quests kind of make you think, first off, that we want to stay away from PMCs, we want to engage them at range, and we try to kill people without getting shot at ourselves, because we're either using a long-range gun or we're using a piece of armor that means if we get engaged on, then we are likely to die because we're undergeared compared to our opponents. Now, this approach can work. What you do really is you pick a familiar gun that is budget or efficient, you head to a map that you like. It can be Shoreline if you want to, but you can go anywhere else. You can go to Customs, you can go to Interchange, whatever map that you're most comfortable on and one that you're experienced in. And I did this in previous wipes when I was less experienced, but it takes a long time. You're trying to find people at long range. It's a little bit like doing an easier version of Shooter Born in Heaven, which anyone who's tried to do that quest where you're having to get over 100-meter headshots knows that that does take a long time. So if you're trying to get into specific spots, and spot people from a distance and shoot them before they shoot you, the number of opportunities to do that are fairly limited, and so it will take you a decent number of raids to get through both parts of 5 and 6. I've done it, it does take a while, but it is possible if that's what you want to do. So if we don't do that, what is the alternative to getting this quest done quickly? Well, my suggestion is doing it on factory. It is super fast, you know the PMCs are going to be there and you pretty much know where they're going to be. The map's very formulaic and quite small, and the low time to kill, yes, sometimes with the Packer you're going to be outgeared, but it's not actually too bad because the fights on factory are very, very short and over very, very quickly. And so if you can land a headshot, you can just finish the fight really quickly, and means that you might actually end up getting more kills than you might think otherwise if you're engaging people with long range and they're using good ammo and you're using something that's kind of intermediate and they've got level 5 on. It might be quite hard to kill them. So in my opinion, the best way to do this is get some cheap effective loadouts. You want to get like 4 or 5 so you can keep going back in without stopping to kit up each time and not really worrying about gear fear or having to go through and get stuff from the flea market every time. Set yourself up with 4 or 5 kits in your inventory, in your stash, so you can just click them straight back onto your character and you can go back in without wasting too much time. So for part 5, we have to use the Packer, which, as we said, is cheap, but it really sucks. And you can either buy it for 29,000 for Ragman 1, or you can actually barter it for 3 lower masks, which are usually about 6 or 7,000 each. So it's a little bit cheaper doing it that way if you want. The 6B47 helmet from Ragman is 34k, which is not too bad, or you can use the 2 bleach trades for it, which is usually cheaper. They're normally about 11k each, so that's about just over 20,000 to get the Ratnik helmet. I actually like using that barter anyway when I'm running that helmet, which I do sometimes if I think that I want to run a helmet of some description, because yes, it won't save you very often, but with the bleach trade it's fairly cheap. So for Punisher Part 5, weapons wise, as I said, you can use whatever you like, but personally I prefer something that's fast firing, which gives you the potential to hit headshots and end a fight straight away, even against somebody who's kind of more geared, and this negates the armor differential. If someone's wearing level 5 but they're not wearing a face shield and you're wearing a Packer and you hit them in the head, it's not going to make any difference. And so the more shots you can get downrange, the better. I usually pick something like the MP5 SD. The Vector can work very well if you can afford it. It's only 90,000 as the base gun. I've had some success with the RPK as well. Really anything that you like to use whatever you're comfortable with. It could be Magnum Buckshot and shoot for faces or legs, or even the KS-23 for the ultimate leg meta irritation for one-shots, and even something like the 7.62 AKs with BP if you want to, which will perform just fine. The one weapon that I tend to avoid is using BT in regular AKs. I know a lot of people use this as kind of like a staple budget kit. I usually find it a bit problematic if you face heavily geared people because BT just won't cut it a lot of the time and it doesn't quite have the right fire rate at 650 to be able to do what you need it to do. But if you're happy with it, the more power to you. And there are actually plenty of hatchlings and low geared people on factory, and so often that will actually be enough. So it's really up to you as to what you're comfortable with. Then next for Punisher Part 6, this can be completed in pretty much exactly the same way. So the build that I like for this is on the SVD, the XRS DRG handguard, the VPG foregrip, the NC Star laser, a TTO1 with a red dot of your choice, and I prefer the Delta Point these days, but you can use whatever you like, a saw pistol grip, and a 20 round mag with 10 rounds in the rig, and using SMB because it goes through every piece of armor and will kill everybody in 2 shots to the thorax. This thing has around 40 ergo and 180 for recoil, which is not great, but in semi-auto, it doesn't matter so much on the recoil itself. And what this really means is you're basically paying 38,000 for attachments plus 20,000 for a red dot, so about 60k on top of the 90-ish K SVD base from the flea market. So even though it's not that cheap, this is probably the cheapest one that you can get away with and also add a little bit on it. You can run it stock if you really want, but I find it quite tricky to get that to work, and I tend to like point shooting people with the laser. I recently did a whole guide for the SVD, so you can go and look at that if you want to see some more in-depth builds for the SVD and try and understand what you want to run, but this version gets the Punisher done. It's the one that I used, and I think it's quite good for close range. It's kind of the best that you could make of it on ergonomics so that you can actually ADS if you need to. In terms of both of these quests, 5 and 6, what I would do is play a scav beforehand to warm up on factory, run around, get used to it, and then head in to smash some faces. And you just have to play it a few times to try and get the kills. And it might be difficult if you're a new player. I did actually put out a factory guide on purpose to make this video afterwards, and remember to take the factory exit key with you. That's one of the worst things that you can do if you're going into factory and you forget to take the exit key, because then you're forced to use gate 3. But go and check out the factory guide that I did. Hopefully that will give you an in-depth idea of exactly how to go through and play it. And it is quite formulaic once you've gone in a few times. If you're really nervous about factory, I advise scavving a bunch before you start working on it. I know some people really don't like factory at all, but hopefully between getting some experience, I mean, offline if you really need to, but as scav primarily, so you can run around without any fear, and then having a look at the guide that I did to try and figure out exactly what you need to do. And it's too much to go into depth here, which is why I did it as a separate video. Now, the PMC kills are most of the battle with this, which we've kind of covered already, but part 5 does have some annoying requirements as well. So you have to find and raid a few different weapons. So there's the AK-74N. This one used to be really problematic because it's a very specific AK, but now you can make it in the hideout in the workbench. You can also get it on the quest from Prapor as the bunker part 1, which is the one on reserve where you have to locate the control room. And as I said, this one used to be a real pain for the hideout craft. The craft is very, very cheap. It's weapons parts and a few other really, really easy bits to get. So I would advise just crafting it in the hideout. I think that's the easiest way. You need a Finding Raid M4. The best part about this is that you get one for completing Punisher 4. You can take all the mods off, so you don't need to hand it in with all the mods. It just needs to be a functional weapon. If you used it or sold it already before you went on to part 5 without realizing, you can find them in weapons boxes or Gunsmith Tasks 9 or 16. And there's also another one on Friends of the West part 1 and Terror Group Employee from Peacekeeper. Probably the most difficult one of these is actually the PM pistols, because you can't craft them and you just have to find them in raid, but they are fairly frequently spawning, so it's not too bad. So look in boxes, check on scavs, use your scav as much as you can. Often you'll end up spawning with one as a scav eventually if you keep doing it, and just, yeah, keep checking scav bodies along with all the boxes that you can, and hopefully RNG is on your side, and you need 2 of them. There's actually 2 versions of PM, the regular PM, and there's a PMT, which is the threaded version. The threaded version doesn't work, only the regular PM, so I wish you the best of luck on that one. Finally, for Punisher Part 6, all you have to do is hand in 7 dog tags for Bear and 7 dog tags for USEC, so start saving these up early, and hope that you get them in the right ratio, because sometimes you can end up killing 15 bears in a row and get no USECs, which can be quite annoying. So this is no harder than just getting PMC kills anyway in general to begin with, so ideally you'd have saved them up beforehand, but otherwise you can just run factory a few more times with your preferred kits if you're still not there yet, or really just do any raid and just slowly collect the dog tags. Once that's done, hand them in and finally bask yourself in the sweet reward of the Epsilon container, which as a standard account player, it'll be like night and day having the 8 slots in the Epsilon rather than 4 of the Alpha. If this is your first wipe completing the Punisher, remember to congratulate yourself for finishing the task afterwards. For newer players, it's definitely not easy, but hopefully it has forced you to push out your comfort zone, become a predator rather than prey, and change your outlook on the game to finally become an intermediate player in Escape from Tarkov, and to go ahead and enjoy the game even more than you did before. Right, we're going to go straight up. No. Ah! What? That was a scav. That ain't good. my god. Whoa! That's not good. No, no, no! How am I not dead? How am I not dead? Did I get him? I caught him. Look at that. Let's go down here again. You feel okay about it? Sort of. Oh, sha. Ah, there he is. Woo. Oh, jeez, there's someone right there. This man's gonna hear me any minute. Oh my god. Too much bleed. So as always, if you learned something and enjoyed today's video and want to support the channel, then please consider dropping a like and a sub. It helps with visibility for those who haven't found me on YouTube yet. To see when I'm streaming, you can follow me on Twitter and Twitch, where I'm currently live twice a week, once on Friday at 9 PM UK time for the Scav Talk podcast, where you can check out in the description below, and a regular Tarkov stream on Saturday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon UK time. And with all that said, I'll see you next time, and as always, have fun in your raids.